Hello, and welcome to the Vergecast, the flagship podcast of private cloud compute, a phrase we heard 650,000 times at today's WWDC. I'm your friend David Pierce. Joining me all the way from New York, Jake Kastrenakes and Hayden Field. Hi, friends.
Hey, good to be here.
Confused to be here, David, just to be totally candid.
This is good. I'm glad you brought this up. I've been covering WWDC. I think I did the math. It's either 14 or 15 years. I can't remember which one. This is the weirdest WWDC I have ever participated in my life. This was the strangest keynote ever. So just a brief bit of inside baseball for anyone who is curious. We prepare for these aggressively. Jake, do you want to just this is a fun little inside baseball Verge game. How does the Verge approach a WWDC day? We don't know what's coming from Apple. We often get briefed and we often get embargoes from other companies. We never know what's coming from Apple. And so we, and specifically you, spend a lot of time preparing for how this is going to go. Will you describe what a normal prep process looks like?
Yeah, I mean, so this happens for every Apple event. And we know the general scope of what they're going to announce, right? At an iPhone event, there's going to be an iPhone. So we prepare to write that. Right. WWDC is usually a very easy one. That you prepare, you assign a writer to prepare a story for every single operating system, because that's what they do. They start with iOS, they go to iPadOS, they go to macOS. Oh, here's a little thing about watchOS. They remembered they had visionOS. Maybe we get tvOS, maybe we don't. But they just go down the list. And, we've got some extra leeway built out because sometimes they'll sneak a little surprise in there or have some exciting new feature that crosses all these platforms. But basically, we have a story for every single operating system, and they go in order. And they spend a few minutes on each operating system. It's very, 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 very predictable.
And for reference, usually I can pre-write part of my story and then I just write it during the keynote and then I can zone out for part of it. Not a big deal. Couldn't do that today. Could not.
So this is a good way, I think, to get into why this was such a strange keynote, because traditionally what happens is one of these starts, we have everybody in a Slack channel. Everybody is assigned to a specific story. So somebody is you're writing the iOS story and you go in and you fill out the details as they're talking about it. You add some analysis as it's useful, and we publish as we go. We try to be very fast on these days. 4 minutes into today's WWDC, Jake and I were slacking in the background being oh, this is all blown up. Everything is about to be different. This is completely unlike any other WWDC we've covered.
This was total chaos. I mean, they both announced all of the operating systems at once, 2 minutes in, and also didn't announce them at all. Didn't say their names. They were just here's the number 27. And then they just started talking about different things. They're just all over the place.
And there was a hippie bus involved, live.
Yeah. So there were basically, they framed it in three ways, right? So one was operating system improvements. One was trust and safety, and one was AI. I think we can dispense with the operating system improvements pretty quickly, frankly, because they were basically all the things we broke last year, we are trying to fix now. They spent a lot of time talking about how it's going to be faster. They're fixing the rounded corners in Tahoe, which is now called macOS Golden Gate, which is very exciting. They are unglassing liquid glass, which is just a terrific victory lap for me, because 5 minutes after WWDC last year, I wrote that liquid glass sucked and was a bad idea. Good call by me. And then eventually everybody. But we have to talk about AI, right? AI was the story of the thing. Siri was the story of the thing. My Siri just went off. I'm so sorry to everyone who this is going to happen to. I need to turn off all of my devices very quickly. But the big push here, right? 2 years ago, Apple launched Apple Intelligence, big promises about Siri, big promises about AI. And then it all sort of collapsed. But now they're back announcing essentially that stuff again, right?
Yeah, this felt
Did this feel like deja vu?
The same stuff they announced 2 years ago, which Hayden, that.
Yeah, it was a lot of that. Exactly. Some of it was announced even in 2024 via TV ads, and now we're seeing it finally happen. So it was interesting to see, it would have been really, really impressive 2 years ago or 1 year ago. It's still impressive, but it's it's the game of playing catch up. And it was funny to see how much of it was announced even in 2024, not even in 2025.
Totally. So yeah, I want to talk about the playing catch up of this, because I think the most straightforward way I can describe this, and Hayden, you should gut check me on this, is it seems like Apple basically, and I mostly sort of mean this as a compliment, like went around the rest of the AI product industry and caught up. It announced everything every other product already has. It has a bunch of stuff that's in Claude. It has a bunch of stuff that's in ChatGPT. It has a bunch of stuff that's in Gemini. The big overarching pitch was, but it's Apple. Is that, and again, like, I think there's something to that, and we should talk about it, because again, this is where we get back to private cloud compute, and Apple talked a lot about privacy, and Apple is like very much trying to present itself as the good guy in the technology space. But Hayden, I want to know your read on this as somebody who follows all of this really closely. Like, did Apple do anything from a feature perspective that struck you as sort of new and fascinating?
The only stuff that really struck me as new and fascinating was just how these tools interact with Apple's already existing products. So it's more just like the way it's going to impact a user's everyday life. Nothing crazy in terms of, groundbreaking besides that. And you're absolutely right. Like, a lot of this is just playing catch up. Like, I have a list of like 12 to 18 things they said that were just them copying competitors, which, I mean, they should be doing.
Give us some of the list. What's on the list?
Okay, let me scroll down here. We have adjusting expressivity and tone, kind of like OpenAI announced, a few months ago. We have like auto deleting chats and like some of the encryption stuff that Meta was talking about. We have like write with Siri, which everyone offers. Viewing old conversations like in a list or a grid of some sort, kind of like OpenAI. They even said like OpenAI when they were announcing this. Coding assistant stuff. And also, like ask Siri, certain like in-house web search products, which we've seen from others, and like a dedicated app, which a bunch of competitors have launched in recent years or non-recent years. And a bunch of other stuff. That's just like the first. Multimodal stuff, like inserting a photo into your search. So basically just catching up with all three main competitors, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google, and also integrating a lot of their products somehow into Siri. So they're really going at it from both ends here. They're trying to work on their own stuff, and then also being like, you know what, let's also bring in every competitor just so we can try to catch up in some way.
And this is my big question too, right? Like they sort of tried to act like there's something new and novel and Apple-y here, right? There are Apple Foundation models underpinning all of this. But actually, those models were created using Gemini. And basically what they announced, everything is mostly just a Gemini feature, right? Like it seems to me that a lot of what Apple Intelligence now is Gemini with Apple branding. And there's clearly some distinctions, but it's very hard to tell where they are and exactly what they are. And Apple has all these different tiers of what's available where, to which platforms, to which, power of device. It's like weirdly complicated for an Apple product.
I mean, I think I agree sort of infrastructurally, but I think the big bet here, if you're Apple, is we can solve A, the user experience, and B, this pervasive feeling of creepiness that people have when they use AI, right? And I think like that so much of the message of this keynote was Apple being like, we can do AI in a way that doesn't have to make you feel bad. And a big part of that is, again, it's about private cloud compute, and it's about the fact that Apple is able to use all of your queries and information when it's useful and it's in context, and then delete it all as soon as it's done, right? Like this is a way that Apple is able to do something that others are not. They are desperate to store all of your stuff on the cloud, and Apple can be like, we don't do that. We just want to sell you iPhones. That's all fine, right? Like I actually think Apple's ability to take this stuff and do it in a more private way is real and true and good. That's all fine. I think the question of like, A, is there anything here that you couldn't do already on your phone? I think is an interesting and complicated question. And well, I guess I should say that differently. Is there anything here that you couldn't do on your phone except that Apple is giving itself special privileges, which is what Apple always does, right? Like this is the stuff that if you're somebody who thinks Apple is a monopoly that turns off all of its features for all of its competitors, you're OpenAI or Anthropic looking at this being like, we have all the same technology. Why won't you let us have access to these same sorts of things? But I don't know. I'm so torn coming out of this. This is why I'm so confused. Like, either this was very smart and Apple said, we're going to do the thing that we always do, which is build the features in a way that is integrated and thoughtful and smart, or this is Apple like completely failing to have a single new idea about AI.
I mean, this is where I'm so interested in the Gemini of it all, because we know what Gemini is capable of on Android phones and on the Pixel. And it's like, it can do a little bit of some of this, right? With Magic Q, it can occasionally pull up things that are useful. But Google, which is, I think it is fair to say, farther ahead than Apple when it comes to AI stuff, has not by any means nailed the integration of AI and your operating system. And now Apple is mostly re-announcing stuff they announced in 2024, saying that they can actually do it, presumably using Gemini technology. And so the question is, can they actually do it this time? Because I do think they are saying that they have a deeper integration than any other platform is offering. And if they actually do that and they can actually pull it off and do it accurately and not feel creepy about it, like that is, it's a lot of ifs, but like that would be a really big deal.
That's exactly what I just wrote. I was writing like in my notes, like, oh, if they can do it, it'd be amazing. If blank, blank, and blank. And that's a big if. I literally wrote that because that's the thing. I mean, a lot of these are more, intense promises like we've seen before. So we're going to have to actually test it when it comes out. I mean, some of the stuff they showed would be really impressive if you could actually do it. Like, and creepy. It's worth saying, like David said, and like writing an email to your boss or writing a text to your friend and analyzing the way in which you usually communicate with them and mimicking that tone. Pretty creepy. Apparently, maybe you don't have to worry about it privacy wise, as they kept harping on. But if you can do that, it's interesting. Also, like things like deciding which photos have who in them and automatically uploading them to a shared album. That's a problem I had last weekend when I went to a wedding. It took me forever and it was really annoying. So if you could actually do that with an agent feature, great. Also things like vibe coding-esque type of tools in Safari, like describing an extension you want for a web page and then it creates it for you. So it's kind of like we said, just copying a bunch of competitors here, but if you could actually do it on your iPhone. And this, I think that's the main thing here. It's just that Apple has an advantage because it has a lot of captive users who, if you integrate this stuff deeply enough, they're going to use it, especially when it comes to Ask Siri and all these new like drop-down menus and automatic like stuff in the dynamic island that they announced.
Yeah, I think the thing that I expected coming into this was that Apple would be maybe slightly more reserved, because obviously it screwed up so badly 2 years ago that it wound up causing huge ramifications around the company, right? Like there were big leadership changes. I think this company blew it in a way that it is not accustomed to blowing it 2 years ago. And so I figured that Apple would come in and, start relatively small and just sort of do things that they knew they could do in the right ways. And I think there's something to that. But then I look at things like Image Playground, where like we are forever debating, what is a photo? And we're always in this question of like, Apple has done a better job of outwardly saying like, we care that photography is photography and that when you take a picture, it should be the picture that you take. We want to just collect more data to do more stuff. And then they show a demo that's like, I have a photo that I am going to reframe, and when I reframe it, it's using the spatial data that it used to take the photo in order to reframe it. And then it generates new things from the new perspective. And it's like, oh, you just fell over the line. Like now we've gone from, you are doing a really interesting idea of how to honor a photograph by also adding the data that you're able to collect with these new kinds of cameras into you're just generating stuff with AI. And it's like, we've just, you almost had it, Apple. And there's so many moments like that to me here. And I think like Hayden, what you're talking about with even the sort of mimic my own tone of voice thing feels like the line between something feeling really cool and something feeling really creepy is very fine in AI. And I think what you would hope, given Apple's reputation, is that it would have done a better job than most of staying on the right side of that line, of doing useful things with AI without doing creepy things with AI. And there are a lot of useful things. Like I got a lot of notes as soon as somebody on stage said tab management. It's like, this is my time to shine. And the stuff in Safari is very cool, right? Like the ability to understand what's on a web page, which of course your browser can do, and group your tabs in a way that is easier for you to manage. Fabulous. Like that is a good use of AI. And that is the kind of thing Apple does better than most. The image generation stuff just felt gross. And some of the ways that it's like, we're going to seem like you on your device just feels gross.
And like agentically changing all your passwords. Again, in theory, good. It just feels creepy. That's a feeling I got throughout. It's like there were some things extremely useful. Am I going to change my own passwords? No, for certain.
See, that's why I'm all in favor. I'm all for agentically changing my passwords. Like everyone's password hygiene is so bad that there's no chance AI is going to do it worse.
Yeah,
like,
that's
just go change everybody's passwords.
Real.
It's going to be fine.
But yeah, it was interesting just seeing like, some things were just slightly over the line. Like it reminded me of reading like The Circle by Dave Eggers, because even some of the kids stuff, like very, very helpful and useful in many ways. But then the way that they describe some of this stuff with like the data that they may have on like a kid's usage habits, for example, they say they're not going to save it, but it's just the data that is available there is a little scary when it comes to hourly usage, daily usage, what time of day kids are using what. It's just, there is a lot of data there that Apple has at their disposal. And as we've seen in the past, can we always trust tech companies to do what they're going to say, what they say they're going to do with data? No. So it creeped me out a little bit.
Sort of just from a big picture strategic standpoint, I'm actually like so curious about Apple's decision to go hard on AI here. Like the deep integration with the OS, that is something that you need Apple to enable for you. But there's a whole lot of this stuff that is just like, you can download a bunch of different apps and get access to it, right? If you want a chatbot, you can download Claude, you can download ChatGPT, Grok, whatever the heck you want. You can get these image tools yourself. You can get the chat features yourself. Apple could have just said, go ahead, do that. It's fine. It's in the App Store. We have that. If you want AI, you can get it. Particularly given all the very strong feelings around AI right now. And so I'm kind of curious, I think a couple years ago, it felt like they want to be there. They want to be a first mover. They want to be seen as aggressive and ahead of the curve. And now they're behind the curve and everyone is really mad about AI. And I'm wondering, if what are they trying to achieve here, right? Because they're kind of just throwing themselves into the same position as everybody else now, where they're more, we haven't tested this yet. I could be wrong, but I think more than likely they're going to end up with a product that is good, but very, very, very imperfect in some really problematic ways. And that's just going to lead to the same frustrations that I think bother people on every other platform. But now Apple is really putting it in everybody's face.
I think the problem here is going to be, or I think what they're banking on here is that they are going to have a whole new market because, with AI assistants in general and voice assistants, like there is a totally different demographic that is super loyal users of Siri in my experience, like my anecdotal experience in my personal life. It's a lot of my friends' parents, my parents, ask Siri this, ask Siri that. They're like extremely loyal users and none of my friends do that. And so I think that what Apple is banking on here is just getting the AI assistant experience into a totally new demographic and market, one that's kind of impossible to ignore. And they're going to have to be careful because they don't want it to be like a Windows Microsoft 11 situation where it's just forced into everything. But it seems like, I think their biggest boon here is going to be that talking to Siri as a chatbot looks like an iMessage. There's an automatic voice mode button at the bottom of the message. Like there's a lot of ways that anyone could easily use this without any friction at all, which is a good and a bad thing. And I think they're just banking on the fact that more than the people that are really mad about AI right now, there may be even more people in the untapped market that just don't use it and may fall in love with it at a moment's notice with zero friction, which again, may not be good, but I think that's what they're banking on.
Yeah, and this is access Apple has to your information and devices that nothing else has, right? Like, Jake, that's the counter to your why not just download a bunch of apps thing. And also like bold strategy to be like, why fix Siri when you can just download Grok? Like, I love that take from you, Jake. Like, I really do.
Like if they could just wash their hands of AI and be like, this stuff isn't ready yet, download Grok if that's what you want.
Okay, I would like to make a different case, which is that some of it is ready. Like there were a bunch of features, like take a screenshot of this calendar lineup for a music festival, and it will add it all to your calendar. Is ready. That technology is ready. It works. You can do it on Android. Like it's a thing that's out there. And there were a bunch of those in here. The kind of thing that I think is interesting. Like you can see stuff in your email that it can go through and be like, oh, look, it's a thing that you can add to your calendar. Do you want to add this to your calendar? Again, a thing you can do in Google products. But that's the sort of thing that I think is really productive. Like Hayden, you mentioned the photos thing. In iMessage, somebody's like, hey, can you send me that photo? Being able to automatically go parse and find that photo, great, good, useful AI technology. This is the sort of thing that, like, if AI wasn't the buzzword that it was, Apple would never tell you the technology behind it. It would just be a software feature, and it would be a good one, and people would like it. And I think where we get tripped up in how we talk about so much of this stuff is how we put the image generation stuff next to the chatbot that's your best friend stuff, next to the take a screenshot of this thing and it will find the times and put it on your calendar. Those are not the same software, but we talk about them the same because everything has gotten like lumped into this idea of just AI is everything to everyone at all times.
And how
I think Apple struggles with that
now.
It's completely meaningless. It drives me insane. But I think Apple is struggling with this too, because like AI is so buzzy that you have to call it AI in order to get anybody excited about anything, supposedly. Even though I think, frankly, like we made apps open faster, turns out to be pretty exciting to a lot of Apple users. But to then get to the point of saying, well, we just want this stuff to work now, but it's AI. You just wind up having to play this very challenging game if you're Apple that I think they just kind of didn't play correctly. I don't know.
Yeah, there were a couple interesting moments too with like AI generated text. And right now it's like a trend that a lot of people are using ChatGPT to write like breakup texts and things like that. And now you can, cursed, but now,
which, like, don't do that. Like people do that, but like don't do
it. And now, you can say, hey, send a message to my group chat and see if everyone wants to come over for a World Cup match and send the menu. And like they did that as an example. The text did look AI generated for sure. Maybe some people wouldn't care. And yes, you can edit it. But I think we're all going to see an uptick in AI generated messages coming our way, many of which we'll be able to clock. There was also an interesting moment that I thought was just so like Apple marketing, just typical Apple marketing, kind of trying to make sure that everyone knows, oh, like even though we made a mistake, it's actually a good thing. So they said some appear to be racing forward, pursuing AI for the sake of AI. At Apple, our mission has always been to turn the potential of advanced technology into helpful and intuitive products for everyone. So basically they're saying like, oh, like we didn't rush. See, like we're 2 years late, but we didn't rush and we were working on something that's human centric. And even that is pretty late because we saw Microsoft and a ton of other companies rebrand AGI last year to be human centric AI. And they all coined these terms to kind of make AI look less scary. It didn't really work. But yeah, it's just funny how Apple's saying, oh, it's good that we're late. And we're doing this new thing, making it about humans, which is the marketing tactic that every single AI company is using right now.
Yeah, it's good that we're late on these things that we promised you 2 years ago and have since been sued over. Apple's ability to turn totally blowing this into a marketing victory, never not impressive. Just mind-blowingly great. Can we talk about the new Siri voice for just a minute? I have a clip of the new voice of Siri, which I actually think this is like a meaningful part of the thing. Like the actual experience of talking to these assistants is really important. This is a thing I kept hearing from people, even in the very early days of ChatGPT, that's like, if you make these things fun to talk to, you solve most of your other problems. Like they don't actually have to do anything if they're fun to talk to. Can I play you this clip of the voice? And then I just want to litigate if this voice is actually a good Siri voice. Let me see if I can do this.
Said team, these apricots are peak. Have they always been this good? Why has no one told me? I'm telling you, man, I've been changed. Clear the fridge. No, clear all the fridges.
On it, Jaws. And you can customize Siri's voice like never before, adjusting expressivity and pace until it clicks.
Hi, let's find the right voice for you. I'll practice some things I like to say while you listen. Let me try this one out. You have one new message. Here's another one. Your timer is set for 1 minute. Now for some directions. At the next stop sign, turn right.
Okay, our chat is as thrown by this as I am. Hayden, these apricots are peak. I want to know what you think. How do you feel about the apricots?
I cringed so deeply hearing this live, like during the keynote. I couldn't. I had to stop writing and just stop. I couldn't handle it. Also, I think it combines the worst, most cringe part of people trying to adopt like slang and the worst parts of like the millennial voice of yesteryear. You know, like the BuzzFeed style. Like, what did it say after the apricots being peak? It was like, clear the fridge. No, clear all the fridges. It reminds me of like, it's just like the old like YouTube, like, I don't know. It's very stuck in the past and very cringe, just like what I'm sure whatever voices they trained it on, you know?
Decidedly not Scarlett Johansson on this one. Just gonna
decidedly not.
Yeah, I don't know, Jake, what's your read on this? It is undoubtedly better than old Siri. Like for that,
when they played this the first time, we were all in Slack chatting about it, and I was like, I think my headphones messed up. Like that couldn't have been right. Like, but no, yeah, it's weird that they said it's more expressive, and then they like immediately play something where the voice just like is supposed to get excited and then is like, I'm gonna stay really neutral. Like I were reading ad copy for a pharmaceutical, and it's like that is what it was.
Maybe that was part of the unnervingness. It was like not only was it trying to be like hip, but also the vocal energy didn't match that either. So you didn't believe it. It's like, like ad copy. That's what it read as, and it kind of was.
Which I don't know. So maybe that's healthier for all of us.
Yeah.
If we're like, this thing's kind of stupid. Like that's what we need out of our AI assistants this year.
I'm now just imagining it's the voice reading the side effects in every medication ad in history.
It would be perfect.
It's very good.
Siri will destroy those jobs. That is what
it absolutely will. I do love the idea that you can customize it. Actually, we just had a commenter saying that they prefer that their robot voices sound like robots. I fully agree with that. I want my robot voices to either sound like a robot or like a 1920s newscaster with that like mid-Atlantic accent and the sort of crackly, staticky. Like, give me one of those telling me what's going on all the time, and we're up to something.
For me, it's like the robotic voice, or if it's like a GPS, I need it to be a British man. Those are my only two. That's my only mix.
Just very gently telling you when to turn left.
Yeah, I said if I'm going to have a man yelling at me in my car, it's going to be a British guy. That's what I always say.
I respect that. I get that. The one other thing I want to talk about, and we should pivot off of AI because there's other stuff to talk about here, but this idea of sort of Siri app intents and Spotlight search and the idea that you can like pull everything into the AI strikes me as the place Apple actually has a shot at doing something meaningfully different than what anybody else can do, right? You have like endless competition in terms of what thing can I ask questions to. And I think a lot of people already have habit built there. Siri has been so bad for so long that a lot of people, I think, happily use Gemini and Claude and whatever. Like I talk to people every single day who have the action button on their iPhone to voice mode for some AI thing. But the idea, like we're seeing here in the stream, that you can grab a bunch of files and right click in the Finder and ask Siri about them is so much better than pulling it all into Claude or ChatGPT or something else, that it's like, these are the things where Apple might have a real chance to win because it is just so seamless. And when you go to Spotlight and you just start typing and you ask a question, having it ask Siri that question and understand that you're asking Siri a question rather than looking for, just a file on your computer, that's the kind of stuff where it's like, okay, if you believe in AI, this is the stuff where Apple has a real like user interface chance to win here. Am I crazy thinking that's the stuff that's actually exciting if you're Apple?
I think that's true. And I also think that a lot of these companies are just so divorced from like what consumers actually want. And in this case, if Apple can actually deliver on some of this stuff, it is some of it, as we said, there's a big range here, but some of it is really what consumers want. Like one example is, the iMessage search has been horrible the past year. If I search for someone's address, can't find it. Like I always have to ask again. And then one of the examples they gave was, what's Jeff's new address? Yeah, like pull up the directions to this nature spot with a stop at Jeff's. So if it can actually deliver on that type of thing, great. We all have so much data right now in our lives that like searching through it in a better way is something that every consumer wants and gets extremely frustrated by. So I think, this is one of the areas where they can win.
Yeah,
Craig Federighi, right now as we speak, Craig Federighi is giving some kind of like technical explanation of how this all works. And I think every time you say, Hayden, if it works, I just keep thinking, well, it's going to work because it works when Gemini works and it's just Gemini. So I think to me, this question of like, to what extent is this just Gemini and to what extent is Apple doing its own thing, trying to run stuff on device, like this mix of private cloud compute and on-device processing and Gemini, it is unknown enough that we should probably still be skeptical that it's going to work. But just the fact that Gemini underpins it, I feel like gives me vastly more confidence than I had in their ability to do this 2 years ago.
Well, that was the only stuff we saw that was like fully new, right? It's like they kept doing these goofy demos that we've seen 100 times before of planning a party or a trip or whatever, and it's like, okay, like this doesn't happen every day, so this isn't very useful. And we are fully aware that chatbots can pull together an agenda for you. Great. It is specifically highlighting files on your computer and having it go to a private server to give you an answer based on whatever's going on with them. That's new. That's unique. And that's the thing that if Apple can pull it off, this will actually be a somewhat, at least, more compelling product than a lot of the other things. It's also why we don't know if it's actually going to work yet.
It's kind of like, as we always say, I always say this, enterprise AI is like the most useful right now for a lot of different reasons. But this is kind of like enterprise AI for the consumer, because it's like you can search your own data and files and query them. So that's one of the main reasons enterprises pay big bucks for this stuff. So if you can do it yourself on your own files, great. That will actually be a useful AI agent for once.
Totally. Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, the only other thing we should talk about on AI, and I left this till the very end because I know I'm the only one of the three of us that cares. You can now vibe code shortcuts, and that is going to be the greatest thing that ever happened to me. I'm going to ruin my phone trying to vibe code shortcuts and vibe code extensions for Safari that let you do things. But this idea of like you can do things on your phone just by asking your phone to do it is what AI is supposed to enable. And I think that's one instantiation of it that I think is very cool.
Actually, I thought it was very bold so it was surprising to see Apple adding basic bits of vibe coding. Particularly, they also added in Safari, you can vibe code extensions that like change individual websites, which is like actually a very powerful little feature. And I think among the many problems with AI, it is taking this very kind of abstract product and productizing it. And that's one thing where it's like, okay, this is still for power users, but you can figure out ways to use that.
Yeah. I think all of that stuff, again, remains to be seen how this is all going to work. Potentially very cool. Shortcuts, my opinions about shortcuts are well documented. Shout out to our buddy, Steven Robles, who was in the room at WWDC, and I'm sure just like passed out of joy that we can vibe code shortcuts now.
Sorry, can I mention one more Siri feature that I don't know how you skipped over this? Siri is now a little orb that on the Vision Pro you can talk to. It's a 3D orb that like glows or wiggles or something. And they're like, you can put it wherever you want. You just look at it and start talking to it. And that was my favorite part of it.
It was how it looked before when you turned it on, right? I mean, but now it's 3D.
That's true. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But
the thing is, if you're Apple, there's nothing else you can do. You can't do physical character because that's been tried a bunch of times and it always gets weird and creepy and people, do sex things with it. You can't do Clippy. Clippy's ruined. You can't just do lights because that's what they've been trying to do and that didn't really work. So it's like you at some point, all that's left is gelatinous orb. And I think we are in the like gelatinous orb era of AI products.
I did a
And
like
frankly, I'm
video
here for
on
it.
I did a video on like being interviewed by AI for jobs, which is a whole other thing. But the point is, there were 3 different companies that I tried, and the only they were all bad, but the least bad one had a gelatinous orb because it wasn't as creepy as like talking to a fake person.
Yep.
So I'm a fan of the orb. If we
It's
have
how you get
that
out of the like terrible uncanny valley of all of this stuff. I do think I think it's sort of silly and overly physical on Vision OS. I love the visuals on the iPhone. They showed a bunch, but like the new thing where instead of being sort of the light all the way around and then it's the UX is not super obvious. Now it's like it all just sort of exists. It's like Siri lives in your dynamic island. And when you do it, you get the little orb that comes out, and then the information kind of comes down from the dynamic island. And if you want to expand it, then you're basically, I think, in the Siri app. That I'm not clear on.
I have further complaints about this. Can you tell me if I have this correct? So now on the iPhone, there are different interactions if you swipe down from the top left corner, from the top right corner, and from the center. Those all do different things.
Yeah. Yep.
That's correct.
This is not how it should
And
be.
I assume you'll still be able to tap and long press on the dynamic island to do things. So like, is it possible there are going to be somewhere between 5 and 10 different interactions that you can do with the top of the screen on your iPhone? Absolutely, yes.
There are 9 different ways to access Siri. They have got to cool it.
This is gonna be like
it's the worst feature on the iPhone and the most accessible.
I had to turn off Siri for a while on my iPhone because I've already like annoyed with accidentally pressing it all the time, and now it's going to be even worse.
If I can just like dream redo this keynote, I want 1 hour dedicated to notifications and how they're going to fix it. Because this is how they fixed it in this keynote. They went, it's so bad, you can only find it by swiping down from the top left corner. That's what's happening. Don't worry about it. Just forget it's there.
You have to just shake your phone violently. We've taken the undo shake.
That's not bad.
And now
actually.
you get Siri by shaking it as hard as you can.
That would be better. I don't have notifications on any apps. Like literally, I only have messages because they're so bad. And I also check all the important apps enough that I don't need to be like prompting myself to check it more.
That's
it's
unhealthy
like
as well. But...
Yeah.
To be clear, that's the correct way to live your life. Like, congratulations on being a more well-adjusted human than either Jake or I.
But also,
I'm sure have both gotten hundreds of notifications since we've been sitting here.
No, but also, is it bad that I check the apps enough that I don't need them? You know, so
that's fair.
Worries me.
To each their own.
Let's talk about some of the trust and safety stuff just for a few minutes, because I think it was fascinating that Apple spent as much time as it did on this stuff, and B, I think the amount of time it spent and the actual stuff it's shipping were kind of not commensurate. Does that make sense? Right? I think, again, I was so struck this whole time by Apple is making a very clear messaging pivot to, we are the good guys. We are the ones you can trust. They've been doing this for a very long time, but I think especially at this moment, Apple is sensing the backlash to AI, this increasing sense among young people that they would like to be off of their devices. Never mind, I think it was V who said in the live blog that, like, gosh, it's weird that Apple feels that way, given that they're literally called iPad kids. Like, it's Tim Robinson in the hamburger suit being like, we're all trying to figure out who did this. And even given all of that, I think if Apple is serious about this idea of we need to give people more tools to responsibly use their devices, particularly kids, I think that's great. I don't think Apple shipped that much here. Like they talked a lot about principles, Jake, but they didn't give us that much new stuff.
It was, as they were going through it, it was really, really difficult to figure out what already existed and what they were projecting that they might do in the future and what was actually shipping, this year. Because I don't think it was that much. There were a couple new things that did seem like they were going to be really useful. They allow scheduling in screen time now. And I thought the most interesting thing that they sort of talked a lot about but didn't do a ton with is they're going to give expert recommendations about how much screen time you should allow for different types of apps. And I think that's like actually pretty interesting as a direction for them to go. Now, do you trust Apple on how much your kid should use their phone? we'll have to see what recommendations they come up with. They probably want you to use your phone a lot, but that's an interesting idea that Apple, they're not saying that they're the expert. They say they're partnering with experts, but nonetheless, it's Apple taking some responsibility and saying, we're going to try to guide you in the correct direction on how much TikTok your kid should be using.
I would love to hear like some middle schooler and high schooler reactions to this, because I was just imagining their reactions, like listening to this. And it was just so funny because it's like, yeah, your parent can change the recommendation or the lockouts on certain apps at any time with one tap. Like if they see you're using something too much, it's over. Or like during school, suddenly you're locked out of everything, which I think is good, but it would just be hilarious to see, like, I don't know, it seems like it could go from like 0 to 100 extremely quickly. So we'll see how parents use this.
Yeah, I mean, as ever, I think whenever I talk to people about parenting limits and these kinds of controls, the overwhelming thing you hear is these are much more parenting questions than they are tech questions, right? And it's like, this is much more about your relationship with your children than it is about any specific technology. But some of these things are, I would say, like universally just a good idea, right? It's more options. The browsing stuff is really useful and important, I think. Like that's been an easy way to get around a lot of the parental controls is the web exists. And this is going to give them more control over this stuff. I think it was called Ask to Browse, where they have to go onto some of the new websites. The strangest part to me, though, was Apple basically abdicating all responsibility when it comes to third-party apps. That they're like, this is a company that has such incredibly iron-fisted control over its platform whenever it wants it. But then I think even the phrase was something like, developers play an important role in ensuring kids are getting a good experience within apps, which means nothing. So they're like, we're giving you a bunch of tools, you can use them or not. And I think that to me is like, if you're as serious about this as Apple wants us to believe that it is, you have to come into this with stronger opinions. They didn't talk about parental controls with some of this AI stuff. Like, are kids going to have unfettered access to this new Siri? That changes the dynamic of what they can interact with in the same way that the web did. So to me, it's like, again, I'm just struck by how much time Apple devoted to this. Like, this is not a company that picks the order of operations by accident, right? And the fact that they talked about trust and safety before they talked about Siri is big and important and telling. But then to just say, like, here's a bunch of APIs, we hope developers do the right thing, was like, it just didn't feel like enough to me.
It's very pick and choosy. Like, do you remember when they were talking about like the nudity and violence controls? Was that something that, and they said, even if they're browsing, it will automatically, blur stuff out. I don't know if that was just across everything, including external apps, or if it was only across Apple stuff and browsing. But yeah, that was an interesting example. Like, they have the ability to do that anywhere. So why pick and choose? And then also I thought it was very telling, yes, that they didn't mention doing this with their own AI, and kids using AI is like a huge talking point right now in terms of like the effects.
Yeah. And I think Apple is, like Jake, you mentioned partnering with experts. They did a lot of offloading to I think it was the American Academy of Pediatrics, that it was kind of like, they make the rules, we're just implementing them. And so on the one hand, it's like, that's great. And I think that's a good thing. And I think Apple should probably not be the arbiter of how kids should use devices, that there are people who are better qualified to make some of those decisions. The American Academy of Pediatrics is not an organization I know about, but presumably is one of those things. But then it's like to make that kind of thing and then just say, this is a thing we care deeply about, we think it's super important, we hope developers do it.
I mean, I think you have to look through the lens of the pressure on them from regulatory bodies and from advocates who want to see them be the arbiters here.
As we talk about it all the time, the only thing governments can agree on is that we need to protect children from technology. Like that's like the only bipartisan issue in the world right now.
Well, and to your point, Apple has positioned itself dead center here. It is the source of power. And so if you do want to regulate these things, the easiest way to do that is to go through Apple. And so I think, does Apple care legitimately about our children? Probably. Like I think these are all very nice, lovely features. But I think that a lot of this also goes back to, when Apple gets called before the Senate or wherever, can they say, oh, actually, we already provide the ability for apps to do X, Y, and Z. We have all kinds of tools for parents to limit their, I think a lot of this is based around potential to prevent them from having to do more, right? And that, yes, that is abdicating. But in avoiding that all-out crackdown, they are at least adding some ability here. But it's true, they're not saying, "Hey, TikTok, you'd really better use the Age API to tailor your content," because they don't want to be in the process of having to moderate and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, there were protesters outside of WWDC. It looked like handing out flyers about Apple continuing to host, things like Grok and nudifying apps on the App Store, and it is increasingly hard to square those two things with each other. And there's some real cognitive dissonance with watching Apple talk about this stuff in the way that it does.
I mean, I think Apple has put itself in a tricky position that somehow it manages surprisingly well. But if you look, I mean, God, all of Elon's apps are really the superstars here in terms of problematic. But like, if you look at the content on X or on Grok, it's like, does some of this violate the App Store's rules? Obviously.
Yeah.
Is Apple going to get more heat for removing it or for leaving it there?
I remember when all the Grok stuff was happening, or the latest round, we asked Apple, are you going to take this off the App Store? And they just, pleaded the fifth. They never responded. And it was a question that it was amid all the nudifying stuff. So, I mean, yeah, I think they'd rather just kind of stay out of the conversation. They don't want to ruffle any feathers when they're so behind in the race. They don't want to, mess with the current loyal users of whatever app. But is that a good thing? Probably not.
Yeah, I think this is sort of the it's a question that comes up a lot in the what will John Turnus do as CEO kind of universe right now, because Tim Cook has been a person who has tried to walk a lot of lines and make a lot of people happy, and has not taken a lot of what I would call very strong stances about much of anything. It'll be very interesting to see if the new CEO is willing to take bigger swings in the name of some of the values that Apple talks about. Let's talk about one more news thing, and then I just want to talk about features we're excited about for 10 minutes, then we're going to get out of here. This has been coming up a lot in the comments on the live stream too, which is Apple is kind of deliberately or otherwise treating the 27 operating systems as like a real hardware dividing line. It is dropping support for a huge number of Apple Watches. It's dropping support for a lot of older Macs when it comes to especially like the Siri stuff. That is just sort of a much larger set of devices being left behind for this rev of the software than I think we're used to. Oh yeah, right. iPads too. A lot of old iPads are being dropped too. And Apple is a company that I think has a really strong track record of supporting its old devices, and is just kind of clean breaking here. On some level, I think this is just technology, right? Like you need RAM in particular to do the kind of stuff Apple's trying to do on devices here. But Jake, were you surprised here that at the sort of sheer number of devices being left behind?
Oh yeah, I mean this feels like way more than usual, and stuff that's pretty recent, right? Like the first Apple Watch Ultra isn't supported. That's not something. True. Right, that's really something's up here, and I think AI is probably the reason. I assume there's probably some sort of RAM limitations here. There's also this interesting thing where there's like 2 tiers of Apple Intelligence, and you have to have enough RAM to get the better tier. But this is rough. I mean, I personally bought an M1 iPad Air this time last year so that I could test the betas out, and I have to get rid of it now because it's not supported. And those, it was a few years old at the time when I bought it, which was a good deal. But I expected it to last for a few more years because Apple is like famously good at supporting operating system updates for years and years and years. And it was this funny thing where Google and Android for the longest time were a disaster. And then even when they started saying, oh, we're going to do 5 years, we're going to do 7 years, it was interesting because the defense, Apple didn't have these promises of, 5 years, 7 years, whatever. But it was like, oh, but they do it anyway. They don't need to promise it. They just do it.
Yeah.
And here it's like, oh, like when did the Apple Watch Ultra come out? It wasn't that long ago. And that's, that's
the
a
base
premium device.
iPhone 17, as one of our commenters just pointed out,
the base iPhone 17.
Features.
Yeah, this is wild. And
I think, to me, there's a really interesting thing happening here too, which is not just that it's dropping a bunch of relatively recent devices, but also that it is creating this sort of fragmented sliding scale of what can do what, that may be probably not a super long-term problem. Eventually people will get powerful enough devices and it'll be fine. But like, how many years has Apple spent making fun of the fact that not every Android user is on the latest version of Android? And it makes it harder to develop apps because you don't know what you're developing for, because a lot of people are going to be on older, less powerful devices that run old software and actually can't run the new software. So you're like, do I leave a huge portion of my user base behind in order to support the new technology, or do I risk being late to the new technology? Like, this is actually a problem Apple has been really good at avoiding with its products for a very long time. And it feels like it is walking into at least a few years of really complicated fragmentation on that front.
There's a real like double whammy here too, of number one, Apple spent years being very, very conservative with RAM allocations. There's just a ton of Apple devices out there with like 8 gigs or less of RAM. And now RAM-pocalypse is upon us. And so RAM is friggin' expensive. And it's not like they can suddenly, ship a bunch of devices that have tons of RAM. And you look at the MacBook Neo, which is an uber hit, and by all means, a very great laptop, immediately losing access to brand new features, right? And it's like, what it's going to cost Apple and or eventually probably consumers to upgrade the Neo to get access. Like, Apple is creating problems for itself, and the AI squeeze is creating problems for everybody. And it's true. It's going to be very weird because having just literally, we just watched this keynote. I couldn't tell you which features are part of which systems.
There's a very complicated, very long Verge story in our future that is just explaining what happens. We need like a really messy flowchart of devices and features and all of the things that you can still do. It's gonna be complicated. And and what I wonder is how many people will bite the bullet and upgrade, right? Because I think if you're a cynical Apple watcher, what you would say is this is just Apple forcing everybody's hand to buy new devices. And the lifespan of these devices is getting longer. That's a threat to Apple. So they're basically pulling the plug on everything and forcing you to upgrade.
It's particularly rough that they opened the keynote with, we finally did it. We took all the hardware that's like running kind of slow and we sped it up. By the way, this isn't available on a lot of the old stuff.
And you can't have it. Yeah, exactly.
And some of it requires interfacing with your friend, right? So it's like, what if your friend has the old one? Okay, great. Yeah. Like now you upgraded, but still it's just, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
The 80% airdrop thing, I was so excited about, but now I'm like, okay, well, all my friends have older phones than me. The text message thing where it shows which message sent via a specific bar on each portion of the message, very helpful for when I'm in the subway every single day, but who knows if others will be able to see it, so there's a lot.
Yeah. And we should say there are a bunch of commenters talking about this, and I think frankly I don't have the exact list of supported devices in my head. We'll figure all of this out, but what seems to be the case is that a lot of devices are going to get OS 27 without a lot of the AI features. And we should also point out that Siri AI is in beta coming later this year. That is a bet I would have lost coming into WWDC. I figured coming out of 2024, the disaster that was, Apple would not announce this thing until it had a thing to ship today. And I was very surprised to see it not actually launched in a more finished, available way. So we're in this liminal phase of AI for lots of people and lots of devices where in a sort of unreadable way, it's going to be hard to figure out what your device is going to get and when. And I think this is just going to be a challenge for people. we should go here in a couple of minutes, but let's just end on a happy note. Tell me features that Apple announced that you're excited about. Cool things coming to Apple devices in 2026. What year is it? It's 2026, right? Yeah, coming into the Apple devices in 2026. I'll give you one. I'll go first. What do you guys think? The opacity slider on liquid glass. I'm dead serious. I think this is a great idea because Apple has spent a lot of time giving people more customization options on the iPhone in particular. And I think that's great. If you want to make your iPhone hideously ugly, that is your right. And you should not have to live in a world created for you by Apple's designers. There are people out there who like liquid glass. You're all wrong, but you are entitled to your wrong opinion. And that is fine. And that is a beautiful thing. So the fact that rather than say, we blew it, we're scaling it back, which in Apple's way is what it said, right? Like, I cannot overstate the extent to which Apple saying, we've heard your feedback in a WWDC keynote is them saying, oh my God, we know we screwed it up so bad. We're so sorry. Just let people customize. Just let people turn the thing off who don't like it and let people get more liquidy and glassy. Like, what if you just couldn't see any of the buttons? If you want that, you should have that. And I think it's great that that's what this is.
Go
Give
full
me more
liquid.
sliders.
I want the buttons to start dripping and falling apart. They need to like amplify the like fluid effects here. Like,
what if everything?
Why is my operating system not Unreal Engine? I want ray tracing. There we go. They got to go further.
Yes. Jake, what do you like? What are you excited about?
Okay, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but Apple framed they had a whole bunch of screen time upgrades, and they framed a lot of the stuff around child controls. But straight up, being able to schedule specific times when apps aren't allowed and how much time is allowed during those specific times, that's actually really, really useful. I have honestly, it's mostly for TikTok, but having a screen time limit on apps that you know are just sort of like time killers is really, really useful. But it's also very different during the week versus on the weekends, or during work and school hours versus like at night when you really do have some time to kill. And so I thought that was a super smart addition and something that people will like legitimately get value out of.
Totally.
I
That's
agree.
why bricks are so popular.
Yeah, totally. My only feature request on that front, and this has been true for a long time, is I need the screen time limits to be meaner to me.
Yes,
like when it just throws up the thing and is like, put in your passcode and you can bypass it, I just will do that. Screen time limits have never worked for me for that reason. But if Siri would just show up as I was hitting the button and it was like, like, don't you do it, you stupid idiot. Go play with your kids instead. Do you know how successful that would be for me? Oh my God. I would never look at TikTok again.
I don't remember what exactly it is, but Google added something for Android 17 where you like physically have to restart your phone if you want to like get rid of the limit that you put on it. And it's like, that's
a great idea.
That's effective,
like,
honestly.
They're screwing with you a little bit. They're like, you're too lazy for this.
Well, that's why the brick works, like you were saying, Hayden, because it's like, oh, you want to look at TikTok? Walk over there and touch your fridge, and then you can look at TikTok. And I'm like, fine, I won't. Hayden, what about you? What are you excited about?
My favorites were just some of the really simple everyday things that I think will make my life a lot better, like airdropping 80% faster. The message bar telling you like what's been sent in a conversation. There's so many times I'm on the subway and I'm like talking to a friend and I didn't anticipate that I would lose service, even though I do every single time. And so I'm like sending like 5 messages in a row, but then she sends a message and then it looks like I didn't get hers. And like, there's a weird, so it'd just be so great to, have a bar showing what was sent and what wasn't, so that there's no miscommunications. And then, like the Wi-Fi thing, being smarter about when to stay connected and when not to, like that always bothers me so much when I have to like manually disconnect from like the plain Wi-Fi or whatever. Just like some of the in-message AI features, like, oh, like your friend says, oh, can you bring this thing that I forgot last week? And you can click yes, set reminder. Because I'm never going to go and set the reminder on my own. It's just annoying and takes a lot of time. But if I could just do it with one tap, or any of the other stuff in there, like, sending the photos, one tap, or adding to a shared album, you can decide exactly which photos of who are going to be in there. Stuff like that is just going to save me a lot of time. So I really liked like kind of the more boring, like everyday stuff that will actually help me.
Yeah, wait, the promise of them, they did promise that they're going to fix voice dictation, right? Because that is huge.
So I'm confused by this. And chat, please chime in on this. By the way, to all the people in the chat, we are excited about the corner radii and the fact that don't worry about the corner radii. We love a good corner radii.
That's true. I'm excited about
the
that.
dictation thing I couldn't figure out is I've been reporting on these dictation apps like Whisperflow a lot recently, and people love them and they work really well. And one of the things that has been astounding to me has been that Apple's dictation remains so terrible. They said dictation, and then
that's about right. Yeah.
No, they said dictation, and then the demo they showed, and it's possible that I missed it, but the demo that they showed looked like AI text generation, which is not the same thing. Like they did a demo where it was like, okay, you can open up a document and tell it what you want, and it will write the first draft of the document for me. That's a feature. I have no particular use for that, but that's a feature. What I want is we made the actual speech to text dictation on the iPhone better. And that's what I thought dictation would mean. Maybe that's there, and maybe I just missed the demo. So please correct me if I'm wrong, but I started very excited about dictation and ended sort of disappointed, unless I missed something.
Okay, that's devastating then if they did not actually fix dictation. Listen,
it's like hilarious how bad the dictation is on an iPhone.
It's
absurd.
My Pixel, I'm dictating text messages all day long. People hate getting them because my text messages are enormous, but you know what? I feel great.
I have one friend that sends me dictation text messages all the time, and as a recipient, horrible. But I would love if they fixed it.
Yeah, that's good stuff. All right, anything else we should talk about? I'm still in this like crazy headspace of what on earth just happened.
Listen, David,
anything else on y'all's mind before we get out of here?
Siri is an orb, screen time is better, and AI might be here soon. Done.
AI is in beta on a wait list.
In some regions.
Oh my God. By the way, Siri AI, terrible name. Just call it Siri, people. You did it. It's Siri, but it doesn't suck now. Siri AI is not going to bring back all the people who hate Siri to Siri.
But David, you have to put the word AI in everything.
You do, because it makes your stock price.
It is.
Up,
I really feel like they put together two words that people hate and
yes.
tried to make it seem like it's a better thing. Yeah, I don't think that's going to go well.
Drives me nuts. All right, we should get out of here. Thank you both for being here. This was a delight. We are going to be back on Wednesday with much more WWDC stuff. And so send us all of your questions. Nilay is flying a red-eye home tonight, and then he's going to be on with me tomorrow afternoon answering all of your questions. So send them all in. 866-VERGE11 is the hotline. Vergecast@theverge.com is the email address. There's a QR code on the screen. I don't know what to do. Something, do it. QR code. I don't know. Everything will be fine. I promise. And we're going to be back Wednesday with that episode. I think one of the things we're doing right now is a bunch of our reporters are going out looking for all of the features that are coming to these devices that didn't get talked about in the keynote, because I think there's an unusually large amount of stuff coming to your phone and iPad and Mac this year that didn't get any screen time in the keynote because it was a weird ass keynote. And here we are. But anyway, we'll be back tomorrow with our regularly scheduled programming. Thank you to Travis and Eric and Brandon and Denise and the whole team for putting all of this together. That's it. That's the Vergecast. Rock and roll.